Hello there, a very warm welcome, and thank you for joining us again on the program. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the northwestern part of Nigeria has in the past months been recording series of abductions of students from their dormitories by bandits from Kaduna to Niger, and most recently in Kebbi State, where the military has been working round the clock to get the students back to safety. This has led to the closure of some schools in the region to prevent a recurrence of the dastardly act. Today on the program, we will be looking at the impact on the growth, the development, and the psychology of students in that region and Nigeria as a whole. And joining us to give a broader sense of all of this, we have in our Lagos studio Michael Demehin. He is a public affairs analyst and a criminologist. He is a writer and author of books. It's a pleasure to have you today on the program, Michael.
Thank you, Victor.
Of course, you're welcome. And also joining us on the program today is Musa Gambo. He is a seasoned professional capacity development expert and community mobilizer. He is a writer with many published articles across different national issues. He joins us via Zoom from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Musa, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today. Well, while we sort Musa's internet out, Michael kicks out the conversation for us. I mean, it's been a roller coaster, so to speak, now in the northwestern region, especially abductions, in Kaduna, in Niger, and like I said, in Kebbi State. This is going to impact on the development, the psyche of these students. Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? But in what way or in what ways will that happen?
Okay. I would like to say that one of the ways in which it's going to affect the student in the area of their capacity development, because for people to learn, they need a proper environment for their growth. And that's the reason why you discover that many people will say that many Nigerians are not healthy. Because when you are talking about being healthy, you are talking about being emotionally healthy, socially healthy, not only in the absence of infirmity. And now, because these students are learning in that environment, and they know that at any time their teachers could be kidnapped, they could be kidnapped. As a result of this, many of them don't even have that mind, that balance, in order for them to assimilate. And that's the reason why the government of Nigeria, we need to look at things critically, because the importance of any government is to create an enabling environment for the citizens to achieve their goals and their aspirations. I was studying through a report, and I discovered that as of 2018, according to the report of the federal government of Nigeria, we have about 7.1 million students who were out of school. They were supposed to be learning. But as of 2021 January, they are now about 10.1 million, meaning that we have a growth increase of about 3 million between 2018 December and 2021 January. If you look at this thing critically, you discover that the future of Nigeria is already being shaped if you are not careful. And like some people will say that an idle hand is the devil's workshop. So if these 3 million students, they do not have that environment to learn, meaning that the criminality that will still come up in the future of Nigeria, as a matter of fact, can be said that it's still doing press up. Meaning that what we are currently seeing may be minimal compared to what may likely come if the issue of insecurity in Nigeria is not taken care of, for us to make sure that the people who wanted to learn have a proper environment to learn.
So, I mean, of course, you were in the studio with us some times back when we reviewed the issue of online learning. Now we are seeing that some schools are being shut. I mean, of course, we highlighted some of the challenges, that might hamper the success of online learning, in the past. Do you think that has been put in proper perspective now so that even if perhaps you shut those schools down, you might have an avenue for students to learn even from the comfort of their homes?
Oh, well, the issue of online learning, to say the truth, Nigeria is not really prepared for that stage at this point, because I've been to part of the north recently. In some of those parts of the north, even to make call, you have to stay on a particular spot called magic spot, meaning even to make call is difficult, not to talk of internet connection.
Where exactly is this?
I was in Kaduna recently. I was in Kaduna, and some part of Kaduna, they don't even have internet connection. Basically, maybe on the network I was using. So as a result of this, I concluded that for the online learning now, it may be okay for some people, but not in all parts of Nigeria. So if we are saying that, okay, we should activate the policy of online learning, what do we do with those students who may not even have access to phones that can use internet, or maybe their area is not even covered at all. So meaning we are already creating a disparity, a wide gap between the rich and the poor. And at the end of the day, these children of the poor, they are really going to become problem later in future, and they are the majority. So I don't think online learning, the Nigerian government is really prepared. And Nigerian society, as a matter of fact, we are not, because if you look at it, I think we have less than 40 million Nigerians that really have access to proper internet. So what do we do with the remaining 150 million Nigerians?
Well, that's a question that should be posed maybe to the federal government. But let's do like a comparative analysis, because we've also seen that, there was some time that, you also had crisis in the Niger Delta where you had, militants, operating, even though it was restricted to pipelines and kidnappings of expatriates and workers and companies that, were seen to be, how would I put it now, exploiting, quote unquote, the community. But they also had issues with their studies as well. Yeah. So how was that sorted out? And can that template be used in the northwestern region of Nigeria, even the northeast as well?
Well, that template, to some extent, it can be used. But one of the things we have to look at is that when criminals, when they discover that the reward they get for their act of criminality is higher than the pain they got when they are apprehended, the issue of criminality will not be solved. Because if you look at, recently I've seen pictures of bandits being arrested. I've seen pictures of kidnappers being arrested. And when they are even interrogating some of these people, they are not remorse, because they know that at the end of the day, they will go in and they will come out. So now what we need to do, or the government of Nigeria as a whole, is to make sure that the proper mechanism is put in place to make sure that the pain that people get for involving in such criminality is higher than the pleasure they get. Because if you look at the work of Jeremy Bentham, he developed a theory called the utilitarian theory. And in his argument, he said that the pain of any act of criminality must be more than the pleasure that is gotten. He said, if not so, the society will become unlivable for the people of that environment. So I think that while the Nigerian government may be trying to see what they can do to make sure that the mind of those involving in criminality, their mind is being kind of developed, they should also make sure that this issue is not issue of favoritism or nepotism. It's not because, oh, this person is from my region. When he's arrested, I make sure that the person is relieved. At the end of the day, the law should take its place. There should be a balance of judgment for whoever involved in any act. That is my own stand on this.
Your own argument, like Jeremy Bentham, like you said. But let me bring Musa Gambo, who is joining us via Zoom from Maiduguri. Musa, again, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Matthias. It's a pleasure as well.
Of course. So we pretty much were looking at the impact of, what has been happening, in the northwestern part of the country. And so, to an extent, I mean, it happened in Borno State as well. We saw the issue of the Chibok girls, being abducted before it spiraled to the northwest. But let's even begin with, Borno State, of where you happen to be. Since the abduction of these girls, some have been rescued, some are still in captivity. But, how would you say the community has even grown past that, and how has that affected the psychology, especially of students who still have to go to school, because they have to learn, of course, like the society expects of them to, to do?
Thank you so much, Matthias. I think what's actually brought about the issue of mass kidnapping in Nigeria is mostly motivated by that single act of Chibok girls kidnapping in 2014. I think that is what sets the stage for mass kidnapping in Nigeria and the country. And the inability of that government as of that time to take proactive measures in dealing with those criminals and bringing them to justice without taking the act of negotiations have largely impacted and motivated other people to continue and see that that is a new way of getting their own money. And yes, it has impacted a lot in our people and the community. Generally, the northern Nigeria have been highly backward educationally, and the literacy level have been very low, occasioned by cultural practices and as well as poverty that is usually becoming a bottleneck for people to send their children to school. then that issue of kidnapping have actually given some parents an excuse of not sending their children, especially females, to school. Looking at up to now, there are some of the Chibok girls that have not been actually found out yet. And even among those who found out, some of them are out of this country. While the issue of stigma and stigmatization of people being subjected after that kind of kidnapping is usually present kind of a trauma that the government does not put measures in place to address. Yeah, we must make sure that things are actually being proactive rather than reactive, so that we can be able to make schools safe again. Otherwise, how the dynamics things are going, changing negatively, are posing a greater threat to education in Nigeria, especially in the north, more than ever before. Education is going backward, and this issue of kidnapping is making government to close schools. But that is not a permanent solution. What we need to do is to develop actually ways of making sure community have been actually interacted, so that good assessment of threats to schools will be assessed, so that others will be relocated, and we will also apply the lessons we have learned during the advent of COVID-19 by providing alternative ways of learning at home and rest. But differently, sometimes the trauma that people go through after being actually getting away from kidnappers is more dangerous sometimes than even being in the kidnappers then itself.
All right. Speaking about, sorry, Musa, speaking about alternative means of learning, Michael in the studio here talked about how it is a problem, or there is a bit of a glitch, especially in terms of the connectivity and also the ability to acquire the hardware, that's phones and laptops, to use for that's one of the alternatives. But apart from online learning, is there any alternative that you have seen or that you think is practicable in this region?
Yes, there are other practicable methods that can be used out of online, because he narrated that network is very poor. As you can see, I'm even struggling to have this interview due to network. And we don't have light in my degree, I think, for the last 5 to 6 months. As I concern, and that is still part of the insecurity we are undergoing. So in Nigeria, we don't only have problem of poor network supply, as well as not everyone has access to smartphone or computers. So I think the issue of giving recorded curriculum lessons to school or students, as it has been amplified by actors of non-governmental organizations recently, can go a long way in addressing this issue of alternative learning. It's more of giving MP3 rechargeable radios of solar, and then giving an M card by recording the normal lessons in local languages of Hausa and Kanuri to teachers and organizing students in class, so that they will be learning on that aspect. Though that will also require light, but it can help in a long way. And another thing is training the teachers themselves. Like there is a need for teachers to know how to identify threats when it is coming, as well as for them to know how to handle students that have been once kidnapped by terrorists, or these ones that are economically motivated attacks on schools. So I think the majorly is to ensure that this issue of online have been properly stationed and restructured in a way that everybody can be able to have access. Most importantly, teachers should be trained that they can be able to adopt offline training, such as like we have the Learn at Home using radio stations as well as local TV stations to teach children. It may not reach the required number of people, but it will definitely better than doing nothing. And in the long run, more people will have access to radio and TV than people having access to smartphones and internet networks, especially with the context of Borno State as far as is concerned.
So, Michael, let me come to you now as we wind down. He was talking about alternative learning platforms. He made mention of, radio, and all of that. But, he also spoke about the Chibok girls, being the foundation for, kidnappings across the country. But, I just want to look at it from the brighter side. We've had stories of some of those girls who were rescued, being, graduating from schools in other places, maybe in Nigeria or even abroad. This bits and pieces of success, don't you think this would give some of the students hope to carry on? Even in the face of all of the challenges they're facing?
Yes, it will encourage them to move on. Because when people have gone through certain challenges in life, and at the end of the day, they discover that after they have gone through whatever they go through, they discover that the society cares about them, the society makes sure that they come out of that problem, is going to encourage them. But like he said that the issue of Chibok girl mark maybe the foundation of a kidnapping in Nigeria. To me, I believe that the foundation of kidnapping in Nigeria is embedded in the situation of the country, poverty. Poverty is one of the major reasons. And if you look at it, also you look at unrefined mind. The mind of the people are not refined. These people are not skilled. They are not educated. And at the end of the day, they are going to go for a way to make sure that they become whatever they want to become. That is the reason why
using the wrong means.
Yes, because that is all they have for now. And that's the reason why I said earlier that if we can have 3 million increase of out-of-school children between 2019 and 2021, that is a danger for the country. So one of the things I would suggest is that the Nigerian government have to take the issue of security very, very serious within the country, and also the development of the mind of the citizens of Nigeria. Because if you want to get something done, if you don't know the legal means of getting it done, you are going to use the wrong means, depending on your capacity, depending on your intellectual development. So the institution of government in Nigeria, the institution of security apparatus, they must be abreast to their responsibility. That is one of the ways out of this problem.
All right, Musa, let me quickly come back to you again. Looking at the ways that can be used now to see that this number that we have that are out of school, how we can bring them back to school to ensure that we don't have, or we're not sitting on a ticking time bomb. What other ways or what plans do you think that can be put in place to ensure that we get this number of out-of-school children back to school?
Thank you so much, Matthias, for that question. I think critically looking at the situation of the out-of-school children, which we globally have about 10, in Nigeria, have about 10.5 million children. 70% of that number is in the north. And among that 70%, we can directly see like close to 40 are all females. So that means the situation is more dangerous in the north, even before the advent of Boko Haram itself. Out-of-school children are already many. But addressing your main question of how do we get them back to school, I think it is time for institutions and actors to start considering retention more importantly than even bringing back to school. Because the ones we enroll this year will end up dropping out again before they finish secondary school. The statistic of people graduating in secondary schools in Nigeria who are enrolled from JS1 to SS3 is less than 40%. As in only 40% of students who are enrolled from SS1 are graduating in SS3. Almost 60% end up dropping along the way. Females, some of them are getting married, while some are due to one issue or the other. So you end up enrolling them this year, the next year you are enrolling back the same people. That is an issue. So I think we should be looking at why are these guys being dropped out again. And the issue of this is happening at a situation where COVID-19 have dealt with this country so much educationally. Students have already lost good one academic year, and now security is pushing back a student out of school again. I can tell you that I cannot count on my fingers the number of students, female, who got married during this COVID-19 crisis. Initially, those are people that probably have plans of finishing secondary school, while in the universities I have known of many who have plans of getting married after graduation, but they all just decided to get married due to that impact. How many are we having of those nature that we don't know? So how do we return them to school? Matthias, is actually more important to us, a more important question to address at this moment than even getting back to school. Because if not, we will continue having out-of-school children again and again. So we must consider returning the ones we have at hand and then giving maybe alternative learning centers, maybe merging some centers together after having a critical analysis of security situations. This issue of kidnapping is presenting a greater threat than even Boko Haram itself. Even in Boko Haram, schools have not been closed like this.
All right, let's hope
Yeah,
let's hope, like you said, retention would be put at the front burner and also, achieved to the highest, percentage. But I have to say thank you, Gambo Musa, for joining us today on the program, of course, from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, via Zoom. Thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Matthias. Thank you so much for having me as well.
You're welcome. So, he talked about retention quickly. Do you agree with him on that, on retaining the number of the students in school rather than, trying to bring the ones out of school back into school? You quickly, in 30 seconds,
yeah,
your take on that?
What I believe is that both those who are in school and those who are out of school, something should be created to make sure that these people, their mind are exposed to learning. Because the reformation of Nigeria to the position we want will come on the platform of the right information, which is from the right education.
Right.
So we cannot leave anybody out of this development.
All right, Michael, I have to say thank you as well for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts. We'll leave you with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Thank you for joining us today on the program. I'm Victor Matthias.
We kick off this week's most viewed videos with the invention of a young Nigerian in Abia State. It is followed by the attack on protesters in Abuja during the Democracy Day protests. Third Sport sees the parade of a police corporal and other criminals for alleged rituals and armed robbery in Ondo State. In second place is the arrest of 73 youths with 47 motorcycles by the Nigerian Special Forces. While topping the charts is the test of a locally assembled car by Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo.
Mitigation of greenhouse gases in Nigeria is significant. In this kind of program, we'll be engaging academics.